Hey guys, it's mid-December. I'm here at a permission site that I've hunted several times in the past, and today I invited some of my friends to hunt with me. And you know, it kind of gave me the idea. I have had conversations with people about what you should do and shouldn't do if you are a guest, you know, invited to somebody else's permission. I thought it might be interesting to source some best practices from the broader metal detecting community, and that's exactly what we're going to do on this video.
Regarding private permissions on social media, I tend to avoid it. I'll show my finds. I may tell about the location that I'm at, but your property owner doesn't want a million people banging on their door trying to jump your permission. So keep identifying characteristics of the big shots of the house or the street. Keep that private. It's kind of like in high school when you invited a couple friends over and the entire senior class shows up. It never works out good. It can hurt what you have currently going on with that property owner and potentially anything that goes on in the future if they start bad-mouthing their experience with you. Keep it private. Show your finds. Be grateful to your property owner. It'll work out good. Couple bits of advice when you're dealing with property owners and permissions. Remember, one, they do not have to invite you there. They're doing you a favor by bringing you onto their property. They have no reason to invite someone on to their property to dig a bunch of holes unless they're being gracious. Be grateful, grateful, grateful. Let them know how appreciative you are. Give them something that you found. Leave that property in better condition than when you found it. Leave it better than your own. We always have a saying that we're not all Boy Scouts. Very few of us are Boy Scouts 24 hours a day. You may not be a Boy Scout, but when you're on that property, act like a Boy Scout. It may develop into neighbors offering permissions up. If the property owner has a good report about you, the neighbors will be more receptive into letting you on their property. Get out there and dig it.
There is nothing better than sharing a metal detecting permission with a friend. It is sharing the love of the adventure, the joy of the discovery and the history with someone who sees things very much the same way that you do. However, it is so important not to let this fun get in the way of remembering to be respectful of both the land, the history, and the landowner. It goes without saying. First, follow the code of ethics. Second, always say thank you. I always ask my friend, is there anything I can bring for you? Can I bring you a shovel? Can I bring you a backup detector or a detector that you haven't used before that you've been wanting to use? Or even just a coil that you'd like to try? Can I bring lunch? How can I make this awesome? Apart from that, always say thank you to the landowner. Find out what they like. Do they like wine? Do they like craft beer? Do they like old books? Do they like cookies or chocolates? And bring them a gift to express your gratitude for being allowed to detect their land and share their history with them.
When I'm trying to obtain permission from a property owner, I prefer to meet them in person. So make yourself presentable, be kind and courteous, and above all, have your documentation ready so that you can show them exactly the permission you're looking for. When I invite someone onto one of my permissions, I expect them to be respectful of the property and the property owner and any of their family members, as well as any of the hunters that I might have invited to come along. I want you to follow the code of ethics for treasure hunting, which a couple points of that are fill in your holes and remove your trash. And lastly, I do not want you to return to that property without me or try to obtain your own permission for the same property.
Hi Rob. A good tip I have is if you're bringing someone out onto your land for the first time or more, that they share the same ethos or expectations as what you do. Be it they're finding maybe treasure or adding to the history that we know of the land, or a mixture of both. Go in just knowing that you've both got the same ideas of what you both want out of the day, and it can only help. Here's a tip for everyone. If you're not naturally good at talking to landowners or organizing beach trips with other detectorists or anything along those lines, that's okay. As long as you can bring something maybe to the party, you can pick it all up in time. You can be either good at logistics, or you've got a bit of IT knowledge, or maybe mapping backgrounds, cartography, or even you're just good at making a good sandwich. That can help.
The first thing I always ask is, what do we do with the finds? Because I want to manage my expectations going in, and I also want to make sure I'm following the same protocol they are with the property owner. Second, I always ask what can be shared on social media with our hunt because I want to make sure that I'm protecting that person's permission if they're trying to keep it private. So I always ask what we can share on social media as far as location, as far as finds, and follow that accordingly. I wanted to touch base briefly about how you set and align expectations with property owners, especially as it relates to the fines when you're metal detecting. So I always talk to the property owner at the beginning and say, what do you want to do with the fines? I can either keep them all, you can keep them all. Both of those are pretty rare. I can send you photos of what I find and you can review and let me know what you want, or you can just let me know specific things you'd like jewelry, coins, etc. So that's usually how I handle set and align expectations with property owners.
I just got a text from my friend Rob. So I think what he's asking, suppose Rob asked me to a permission, one of his detecting permissions. That doesn't mean I can go by myself, whenever I want. Just because he invited me doesn't mean I can go back. Now, if he talked to the landowner and he says it's fine if I come whenever I want, then great. But unless it's specified, you don't have a blanket permission to go back to that spot. So I hope that answers your question, Rob. That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
When I send out a permission letter, my permission letter specifically states that anything that we find on the property will be shown to the homeowners, and the homeowners will get to choose what they would like to keep. Let's just say that I've given up some really nice bucket lister items over the last couple of years. If I'm aware that there are children at the property that I'm detecting at, I will typically give the homeowner all the change that I find and tell them have the kids clean it up and then deposit it in their piggy banks. That also goes for any Hot Wheels cars or any other usable toys. When I get a permission that I know is a pretty big property, I have a core group of other detectorists that I like to share my permissions with. I make my buddies aware of the arrangements that I have made with the homeowners so they'll know what happens with our finds.
Hey, so once I have a permission to metal detect at, I do have a limited size group of detectorists that I would be willing to take along with me over to this permission. The reason for that is I trust them in terms of etiquette when it comes to digging at somebody else's property. My intent is to leave that property looking better than when I found it. In terms of what information I actually put out on social media, whether that's through Instagram, Facebook, actually the YouTube channel, is very limited in terms of the actual location that I'm digging on. It's out of respect for the landowner, especially if I find some good items. A lot of anonymity is good in terms of where you get those permissions at, because if you do your job as a detectorist and clean up that area from that landowner, they're going to invite you back and we're going to be able to enjoy this hobby a lot more.
So you're my guest on a metal detecting adventure of a lifetime. I've done all the work, I've done the research, I did the knock, and now we're going to go do some digging. But the last thing I need from you is to show up with Hobo Pete and Two Time and Tom. You're my guest. I didn't say bring anybody else. It doesn't look good. All of a sudden you've got all these people digging in this guy's front yard. You're my guest. Don't bring anybody else. Plain and simple.
I hope you're enjoying these permission tips, so I'll add a few of my own. If you are fortunate enough to be invited on someone else's permission, try and return the favor. And if getting permissions is just not your thing, you can show your appreciation a few different ways. So for example, one of my friends showed up at the permission with a jar of honey that he had harvested from his own beehive, one for me and one for the property owner. I have other friends that will bring donuts, for the group for the day. Maybe they offer to pack a lunch, pay for gas. The point here is simply to try and say thank you, both to the person that invited you onto the permission, but also to the property owner. It's not only the right thing to do, but as the saying goes, what comes around goes around, and you never know, you might find yourself being invited to somebody else's permission. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have a great permission tip, things to do, things not to do, please leave it in the comments section below this video. And I want to ask a favor. Please visit the social media pages, platforms of the people on this video. Maybe give them a like, a follow, and join me in saying thank you for the great information they shared about the do's and don'ts with regard to permissions.